Good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, January 14th, 2026.
Difficult to hear you.
Gloucester School Committee. We are meeting at the Gloucester High School Library at
Anybody cares?
Johnson Road. The public is welcome to attend meetings in person or alternatively through the Zoom link provided on the agenda. The meeting notice will reflect if the meeting is via Zoom only. As amendments to the open meeting law allow, the school committee may continue to hold meetings remotely. Please note that the in-person meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the remote connection. I will call this meeting to order and state that the mission of Gloucester Public Schools is for all students to be successful, engaged, lifelong learners. And I ask that you join me in this meeting.
For which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will do introductions of who is present around the table. Let's start with Stephanie.
Stephanie DeLisi. Hello, I'm Sophia Ferrara from Gloucester High School, Secretary for E-Board. I'm Martina Campiola, and I'm Dean.
I'm Paul Lundberg, new school committee member.
Heather Daigle, school committee member.
Bill Melvin, school committee.
Kathy Clancy, school committee.
Melissa Front, School Committee. Laura Weason, School Committee.
Andrew Liakis, school committee.
Ben Lummis, superintendent.
Amy Pascarello, Assistant Superintendent.
Amy Ham, Director of Mental Health and Social Emotional Learning for the district.
Dr. Michael Chavez, Director of Special Education.
Welcome, everyone. The next item of business is the oral communication. The public shall have the opportunity at every regular school committee meeting to be heard under oral communications. Oral communications shall allow any resident who has a request or complaint of any nature relative to the school committee business to appear before the school committee, state their problem without debate, and the matter may be referred to the proper subcommittee. For items that are on the agenda, members of the public may address the committee with the permission of the chair. Persons speaking under oral communication shall be limited to 3 minutes each and shall submit a copy of their prepared communications to the recording secretary. If there is anyone at home or here with us in person that would like to speak, now is your opportunity. Have somebody here. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Mike Johnson. I live at 1214 Schoolhouse Road in Gloucester. And the reason I'm here tonight is to address the new school committee regarding the recent changes in leadership and ongoing challenges that you face, and hope that you take decisive action and restore a public trust which is missing. I strongly encourage the current Gloucester School Committee, you guys, to override the old guys and ask Professor making an accommodation with Mr. Lummis to retire post haste. Welcome, Ms. Daigle. It comes as Jim Lundberg. Welcome also to the survivors of the bullet ballot of the school committee. I hope you understand that the results of the recent election show that the voters have lost their trust in the old guard. And with cause, see schooldiggers.com for the data. In 2020-2021, our rating was 39% out of 100. In 24-25, it was 26% out of 100. Over the 5 years, we lost 33% of our school's rating. That's not good. Previous school committee did a great disservice to Gloucester schools when they accelerated this election process for the new superintendent. Their actions appear to have been motivated by personal interest rather than welfare of the district. Mr. Melvin stated, I think it's very important because we've learned right through the years of experience and we have knowledge and skills. Critical to remember that the rights are not earned. Trust is earned. The results of the recent election show you don't have the trust. Now we have a two-tiered superintendency a lame duck, and the superintendent-elect. You're remiss to assume that Ms. Pascarello's future staff currently assumes that she's the assistant. They treat her as the superintendent in their own minds. The hope is she will retain sufficient political capital after the wait until July when the official transfer occurs. A lot of work ahead of you people to restore our schools to their previous excellence. We can't keep sinking into the quicksand of the status quo. We have one too many superintendents, an outgoing superintendent who's ineffective by the very definition of lame duck, and an incoming superintendent who's ineffective by the choice of the previous committee.
Your time is up, Mr. Johnson, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seeing no one online with their hand raised and no one else present, audience this evening so far. We will move on to comments from the chair. And usually I don't say anything, but given that we are a new combination of people on the school committee, I want to welcome new voices and new personalities. We will all continue our great work together, and I'm sure we will. Last September, the school began with the motto for all the educators being welcomed back of positivity, gratitude, and purpose, and we continue that mentality and that goal. And I look forward to doing continued great work and having the staff present. Take great pride in when they come present to us. I know they are working hard and working with the best interests of the students that way, as well as the leadership team. Thank you. Recognitions. Okay, I'll go first. I went to a battle of the bands, which I had no idea what to expect because I'd never been to one before. It was a 5-hour event. And it was a fundraiser for the elementary and middle school band program, after school band program, held downtown at the Cut. And a lot of Gloucester alumni performed, different bands that people follow. The crowd would come in when a different, knowing that their friends were going to sing or a band they followed was going to sing. And the music was a variety of different music. And our own Grant Harris from IT is, surprised me by being up on stage. And then the next surprise was Andrea belted out. So, it was really a great feel-good night because I think Jamie Bakatowski did an excellent job promoting the importance of our elementary program. And people really stepped up to support their friends and people that were on stage, but also the students of Gloucester. So it was a really great feel-good night and a lot of fun. So if you see Battle of the Bands again, I highly recommend you go. Something for everybody. Anybody else? Okay, we have our Gloucester High School Student Advisory Council. We have Martina and Sophia with us tonight. Thank you for being here.
So to start, tomorrow night, the junior class has a fundraiser at Oak to Ember from 4 to 9. Today, 17 GHS students were trained in active bystander training by Quabbin Station, and then they plan to train middle school students later this year. Boys tennis team and the National Honor Society are doing a cleanup of the tennis courts and GHS property. 44 students competed in the DECA district competition last week, with 23 students placing to advance to the state competition. And NHS members are doing a study session to help students prepare for midterms coming up at the end of the month. NHS is also just finishing up with their credit recovery, which is a great way for students to keep up their grades and just catch up on what they've missed, which is always a great success with NHS members helping out and tutoring students. We are also, Student Council and NHS are also be doing Secret Pals soon. Secret Pals is an act of kindness. It happens throughout a whole week, and it's taken back to faculty members throughout GHS. Teachers love it. The students love being involved and bringing just a spark of kindness to and to show appreciation to our staff. And then the sophomore class will also be doing Valentine's Day grants for their to raise money. Each grade has their own holiday. And the sophomore class is also doing a bake sale this upcoming debate. And for another fundraiser, the girls hockey team will be hosting at Machaca on February 11th. So go out to support them. And then for Friday, at GHS, we're doing Patriots Day. So go Pats. So good. Incredible outcome. We'll be happy for you guys tonight.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Sophia, very much.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah.
As always, you're welcome to stay on the agenda tonight. I don't know if you had a chance to look, but we're doing some revisions to bullying policy. But anytime you see anything on the agenda, you think you want to participate in the discussion among us, you're welcome to. We understand. We also have other things that are pressing as well. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Next item of business is the consent agenda. Does anybody have any items they would like to remove?
You want to accept the consent agenda?
Second.
Seconded, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
In case the new folks don't understand, I'll explain it. The committee will remove an agenda and you want to discuss it further. Then you discuss it and you go on into separate here today. Point. That's what I'm saying.
Right, next is deliberation on education issues and the superintendent's report.
Great, thank you, Kathy, very much. So I first also want to say welcome to new members. So Mayor Lumberg, Stagel, Sliakos, really appreciate you guys being here, being part of the team, joining the team, and making a new team. I'm a big football fan, and what some coaches say every year is that we have a new team every year. I keep writing the Patriots every year, but especially the former coach, Guy Belichick, said they have a new team every year. So we have a new team. So I'm really looking forward to working with all of you and making sure this team is really powerful and collaborative and really helps lead districts in the places we need to go. Part of what I try to do with the school committee is to help educate the members about the work we're doing in the schools, what it takes to do that, on lots of areas. So our presentations are typically attempts to do that. And then you'll see that tonight in the budget process. So I try to help you understand and get up to speed on what the process is that we typically do, what we're doing this year, and so where we are on that. Another way is also to help with some of the process too, just with the consent agenda there. I was on the school committee a long time ago in Cambridge, and my head was spinning for quite some time. That's typically what happens with new committee members. It's okay, natural, normal. It may not be that way for you, but in case it is, we're here to help you out, especially process sort of thing. So just welcome all of you. And welcome to returning members as well, please. So let me pull my presentation for tonight. We'll cover a fair bit of ground here and a variety of important topics. One moment here. We always begin with our motto, everyday matters, everybody belongs, and every student learns in the Gloucester Public Schools. So tonight we're going to go over the first my superintendent's report. Now a little shorter tonight because we, as you can see, we got a bunch of things on the agenda. Budget planning update. And that's really about where the process, what the schedule is, what we've already done, what we will be doing, and how it comes to the public. We'll talk about the school year calendar. Address the revision of the bullying prevention policy that's already been reviewed and approved by the program subcommittee, and now it's coming to the full committee for discussion. I'll talk more about how revisions are handled differently than a new policy. And then update on the proposed lottery admission for the Essex North Shore Agricultural Technical School, known by a lot of names, NSAT, Essex Aggie, that sort of thing. But I will get into they need to change their admission policy and impacts students. Our budget, the city's budget, really. So we'll get into that. So we'll begin by the superintendent's report. Health update to all families went out today. Really supported and led by Jeff Parko, our head nurse. All the principals are sending out either later today, or they had done late today or early tomorrow. Guidance to all families about the flu and respiratory virus season. We're in the midst of it, and it's pretty heavy right now all across the region. And we're reminding families of that health and safety, first of all, of our students and staff are important priority, but then including guidance on preventing the spread of illness. You're going to keep your child home, The fact that staying home when your child's ill is the fastest way for them to recover. Okay, guidelines for returning to school, when it's okay for them to come back to school after illness, and then of course, always contact the school nurse or the principal if you have questions. You actually have a copy of that of West Parishes. They're all very similar. With Jeff Parko, we drafted together and we're sending. So, any questions about this? Wash hands, people. Wash hands. Okay? Cover your coffee. The battle of the band. So as often happens, recognitions are a little repetitive. What we have because we're thinking the same things. But as Kathy Clancy said, this was a fantastic event. Probably one of the best we've had. I was unfortunately out of town, family. But as you said, the event, 12 different bands, alumni, graduates, current students performed, raised over $30,000. Really supported by everyone there, ticket sales, but also a match from an anonymous donor as well. That's for that, and really just I so many times I've credited our music leaders, instructors, and directors, and Jamie Koptoski in this case, who leads our elementary band, and was just a total star. It's, more helping to organize it, but also, as you said, getting the word out. So appreciate that. Congrats to Grant Harris, his band. Hold on, I wrote it down for a reason. Remember the band right here, the Alcos. Old Hickory Boulevard, which I have learned is an outlaw country band. Okay, won the Battle of the Bands at Andrew Liakos, as you said before. Musician extraordinary was a vocalist, so fantastic. Are you a regular of the band? Or
No, I'm a special guest star.
Special guest star. Okay. We'll do a special guest star. Excellent. So really awesome night. Awesome. So a couple sports updates. So our swim and dive team had their second win of the season already. So some of our standout swimmers on the boys' side: Henry Seisdick, Joseph Porcel, and Amos Tellep. They performed in the 400 freestyle relay. Henry placed first in the 200 individual medley. Joseph placed first in the 500 freestyle, and Amos was first in the 100 freestyle. And then other strong finishes. We had two of the relay teams, 200 freestyle relay and the 200 medley relay. Did well. They both placed first, so fantastic. And also, which is great news, young up and comer 8th grader Francesca Gaddis placed first in dive. Great start to the season for swim and dive team. Gloucester High School, so the DECA participated every year. Our DECA group, which is our business development and entrepreneurial club, which is something that exists in many high schools around the Commonwealth and beyond. They participate in the regional competition and the state competition. They do well enough, and then if they do well there, they can go on to the national. And typically, we've had a number of students proceed to states, and then a couple every year go to nationals as well. So the District 6 competition was recently, and many students placed. There's the whole DECA club you see right there in the high school in the foyer there. Miles Tran Harrison, Isla Black, Emily Giddings, and Ayo Vidal. Also Janelle Braglione, Alina Brown, Sarah Costa, Henry Harrison, and Amos Tellep, all placed. They are heading on to states in March. There's the DECA, always great support on that. And I keep blanking on the staff member who leads it.
It's a new staff member.
This new staff member. Sorry about that. One of these two will rally and get us a name, and we'll announce that too. On all these clubs, it takes really great support and leadership from our staff as well. Amy, Cam, do you want to talk about West Woodson here?
Sure.
Yeah.
So the mental health ambassadors and the Gloucester Youth Leadership Council had heard Wes. Some had heard him like 3 years ago, and it only went to half of the school because there was only 2 grades that were selected, and they really wanted to bring him back. So we partnered with the Gloucester Health Department, and they actually financially supported bringing him back. And he was wonderful. He talks really openly about mental health, and is really hopeful message, and I think a lot of the kids really resonates with a lot of the kids. So it was a really youth-driven event.
And that's, I think, one of the most important pieces is youth-driven, youth-led. As folks know, I talk about that quite a bit, but really always want our students to develop and have the opportunity to lead, to develop programs and really help others do better. Another example of that was the training on that the high school students talked about.
So when we're talking about the bullying, I mean, we're not going to talk about all the prevention efforts, but we have trained, it was 18 students today with the Quabbin Mediation Center. And those kids were just trained in being the trainer model in becoming an active bystander. The three staff members are advisors, Kim Trujillo, an English teacher, Rich Francis, a history teacher, and a new teacher, special ed teacher, Nick Tower. Those are the adult advisors that we can pay through the hate crime prevention grant. And we really want to address, teach them to teach their younger peers at the middle school how to be an active bystander, what to do when you see something like that happen. So that's exciting. And then we also have a peer mediation group that was trained with Anya McDavid, who does North Shore Resolution Center. And those kids are looking at, well, they've been trained for 4 times, like 4 days, but they now are trained to mediate low-level conflict with their peers. And we hope that we trained younger kids today, and we hope that's a feeder to the peer mediation program for the older kids.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, exciting.
Amy Cam, Director of Mental Health and Social Employment for those who read the data. In case you didn't know, you may already have. But again, examples of opportunities for our kids to step up and lead, to support their peers, and also to work with younger students as well in the school, help them develop skills as well. So really an approach we like to do in so many different ways. And cell phones and social media. So this is sort of a nascent group. There was an article in the Times, which I didn't really want them to do quite yet because we're just getting off the ground. The point here is to have the Gloucester Health Schools, the Gloucester Health Department, and group of parents really develop a network that's supporting other families in Gloucester around just the challenges of raising kids with cell phones and social media. In our fully connected world, it's very complicated. Okay, more complicated perhaps than it ever has been, at least for a long time. And different as well. So we're just had 2 organizing meetings so far. The group is open for more and more people to join, to be part of that leadership group. Last night's meeting, we heard from 3 other groups: a group from Malden, a group from Arlington, and a group from Beverly that have similar parent-led groups, parent and community-led groups. None of the other ones are working directly, or organized by the school department. So that's the fact that we are, real partners in it together. All 3 health department, schools, and families is distinctive and important for us, we believe. But again, just beginning. So not much to report yet because we're really in the process of learning what these groups can do, and then ultimately deciding hopefully pretty soon on what the focus will be. That could be events, that could be focusing on, family sort of commitments on digital, social media. That could be educating people. That could be providing tips and guidance on it. But lots of ways to go. That could also be advocacy with the schools and with the community. But there are a lot of different ways to go. But it's important that the parents really decide what's best at this time. So,
You're looking for parents, cross-section parents?
Yes.
Elementary, middle, high school.
yeah, definitely. So we've been advertising that. Our next meeting is Monday, February. I think it's a 9th, but don't hold me on that. But if someone had a calendar.
That's a Monday.
Yeah, Monday, February 9th. The next meeting, we'll get a word out and have another nice graphic like this. Parents are creating the graphics, that means good. That's why it's a good looking graphic. So anyway, just beginning, but hopefully over time, and we'll get this rolling and really be able to support parents and families in ways that help them.
some
Of
questions?
course.
Are the other groups that you mentioned, did you say Malden?
In Malden,
Malden, Beverly, and
And well, the last group is actually based in, Concord, but it's called Turning Life On. And it has actually a coalition of many of these groups. They develop resources and guidance and pull together those groups, it's sort of a convener. They've been around for a while, so it's sort of another group in a sense.
is there like like the wait until eighth movement? Is there like a component of that?
Yeah, so that's something we're also
Excellent.
looking at, like that, so that's a great example. There's a wait eighth movement, movement, I'd say. And the idea is wait until eighth grade until a kid gets a phone, cell phone and digital device. And that's one of the, things we're looking at, and we wanted to have that as part of the effort. Okay, that's sort of commitment. Yeah, so we learned something about that last night.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not exactly sure of the protocol, but can I make a comment?
Of course you may.
Okay, so I just like to go back one slide to the visit of Wes Woodson.
Yes.
This concept of, his transforming his own anxiety into purpose, the whole concept of, of you are not alone is so important. I just applaud you for wanting to do that again. Was this an assembly in the auditorium for students? How did you present to students?
Yeah, there were two assemblies. So the auditorium in high school can only really have, so it was two grades.
Right.
So it was two assemblies, and the mental health ambassadors and the Gloucester Youth Leadership Council through the health department.
Yeah.
Combined, introduced him, and were on stage and really took ownership of it.
Yeah. But that whole sense of not making sure people aren't feeling that they're alone is really key to learning, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's because when you feel alone or anxious, you're distracted from learning. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Sometimes we also have, the mental health ambassadors might have a private audience or meeting with Wes. Did that happen this time? I know sometimes it does with our speakers.
We did at the end. So the mental health ambassadors, actually, that's one of their main goals is to spread awareness that you don't have to suffer alone and that there is help.
Right.
And so the Green Bandana campaign has been done for years now, well, since I've been here, like not here, but like in this role. And so we did go to the middle school as well and give out Green Bandanas this year. And then we are in the process, the youth mental health ambassadors are creating resource cards. So, and stickers so that you can go on their things with helplines and stuff. The Green Bandana is a visual, sorry. They give out the Green Bandana so that kids can tie it on the backpack. And it's a visual reminder that no one has to suffer alone. So,
Can I ask
and that there's always help.
I'm sorry, Amy. Just a question. I always thought the green bandanas was also that they are signaling there's someone you can talk to.
Yes,
That-
but there's always help, but we're kind of careful about that because we don't also want to put the mental health ambassadors in a role of having to
Right.
Be a therapist. However, they are trained in like QPR, which is question, persuade, respond, and it's a suicide prevention way to work with a struggling friend, peer, to get to a trusted adult. So we always try to stress find a trusted adult.
In terms of proper protocol, you don't always follow, is should be recognized by the chair to ask a question, ask a question or speak. And said, like, I broke that about 4 times. So that's.
But we generally try to ask for
Generally,
the
well,
chairs.
Maybe you need some more learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do it
So-
more for making sure everybody has a chance
Okay.
and not for control.
Okay.
This comment might have been directed at me.
No, not at all, not at all. I should not be calling them, I should not be calling people and I will sometimes, so that's my mistake. So, any other questions about the update?
Can I add something to the update?
Of course, you can.
Well, you gave such a nice shout out to Ms. Klepotowski, and there's going to be an elementary band concert on January 26th at O'Malley. And I know that is the band boosters will be there, and I know that she's already been sending out invitations, so we want to encourage people to attend the 4th and 5th grade band concert.
what we're trying to really develop, and elementary boosters are brand new. The credits, Ms. Papatowski, okay, and the parents, right, as well as GF to support that concept, okay. But we're really trying, just like we have boosters in sports, and there's, and GAA is, there's also athletic association, right? Fisherman, want to see if we can move towards a sort of a elementary through high school, one organization. Have that, so it's more comprehensive, and there's a real, development over time, progression, and a real strong, boosters for the music and programs. That's the future, I hope, that we lead that way, but right now, we're just getting the elementary one off the ground, the parents are, and just really appreciating the support of our program, so. Most, just like in athletics in public schools, most programs need that additional support. Teachers can do, so. For it not to be that way, that's often the case. All right, let's get into the budget process. Okay, so this is what we're going to cover tonight. And you have in your packet stapled section that's the budget calendar as the cover. Okay, and we're going over the budget development, account of the development and budget priorities, our long-term budget needs that we identified in FY26, and then what we know now. Okay, let's stop along the way, and questions are welcome. So the budget calendar is this. I'm going to go over a few parts of this more specifically, but just the thing to point out right now is our budget process goes from November, and the first couple of months are real typically sort of in-house work and development, the first few months really, and then about this time, actually tonight, we start just making the process more public, okay, and out in public, okay. But the process goes all the way to June, end of June. Typically, your last meeting of the school year, you're doing the final vote on the budget. But there's steps along the way, and that's first the budget priorities presentations, which are February 4th, 5th, and 10th. I'll talk more about that. Then there's the actual presentation to the school committee. The B&F committee reviews it in April, and the school committee does as well. And you have to have a vote to have a budget that goes to public hearing. Public hearing is a formal public hearing in this room, so a lot like a school committee meeting, but it's a little bit different. And then ultimately, you vote to submit the your budget to the mayor and through the mayor to the city council. The city council has to vote on all the city department budgets, including the school's budget. Then once they do that, that budget comes back to you again for final approval. Okay. That's the basic outlines of it. We'll talk about a few things a little more in depth right now. Let me just stop you there in terms of questions.
So not a question, but just so you know, February 10th is not available for me.
Okay.
No one reached out to me when we discussed these dates. Okay. So didn't know, and we've had to do this last year as well. If we can change it to the Monday before, which is the 9th, or another day that week.
Find out.
But not Tuesday the 10th.
And Melissa's particularly important in this and has real sway in the calendar because she's the B&M chair. Okay.
So
and
that's the only day I have
apologize
a conflict with.
Yep.
I just would prefer that we change that date.
Okay, great. We'll reach out to you about that.
Thank you.
Problem. So budget development is what we've done so far. So this is part of what you've just seen, a little more details. So the district leadership team, sort of in the November time, we went and did some work together to identify budget priorities based on work for the past couple of years and also what we see ahead of us. Okay. Around the same time, just if you think about November into December, budget meetings, and those budget meetings are with the district leaders, meeting myself, Amy Pasquarello, Mike Jarvis, and then also our CFO and finance director, meet with every principal and department director individually. And we ask them some basic questions, what we really want to, what's going well, what do you need to continue to do, what do you want to change or do better at, modify, and then what's related to the budget, basically. So some of those things are related to budget, some aren't, okay? So we get really clear on what their requests are, what their priorities, what they're looking for. Also then, as well, what happened in December was the B&F subcommittee and the school committee voted on our approved FY 2027 budget priorities. Okay, we'll be building the budget around those priorities. We'll talk about those in a moment. And what we're doing right now is we're taking all the information we've got from budget managers, those meetings, a long-term budget plan and priorities, or district priorities for 2027. And we're looking at all those across. We're looking for alignment, we're looking for redundancy, looking for shifts that happened since last year, okay? And we're gonna start identifying what we can or can't do, we think, within the budget. And then and so that's where we are right now, we're doing that, sort of cross-checking. I will report now is as we look at last year's long-term sort of budget plan, we look at what we want to be doing going this year and going into next year. So we request, there's a lot of alignment, which is great to see. Doesn't have to be because you adjust, right? There's a lot of alignment to what we're thinking we would be last year and what we want to do going forward. So that's good news. That's what we've done so far. And then next steps, we're going to be making the initial decisions on what to continue, add, stop, and finance, okay? And our finance team builds that initial budget. We sort of run that past the budget managers as well and get feedback and input on that. Around that same time, we'll be coming, as we just said, the budget priorities presentations. I'll talk more about those when they're here. They're the B&F subcommittee, but the whole committee is welcome to come to those. You're also welcome to view them recordings. What we do with those is each department or school goes through what they're working on, strengthen, they're doing well, and the work they want to do related to budget priorities, okay? At that point, we're not talking numbers. We want to make sure you know the schools and the district as a whole across these areas are intending to do and want to accomplish. Okay? From there, we build a budget, right? Because we want to be building a budget of what we want to accomplish rather than the budget dictating what we should do. Okay? And then after those pieces, the draft budget's finalized, and then we present it to school committee on March 11th. That's all the work that sort of, and this is like thinking, figuring it out, happening all the time with a bunch of us. And that brings up the calendar. All that work just brings us to for the fourth step, the budget process. Right? At that point, you're talking about numbers. You're seeing, presentations. You're seeing all the different pieces that make up the budget, or piece by piece, and we get that to you, and then you're deliberating, giving us impact, and input, and feedback, and we're making some adjustments as we go along. Pause there, see if any questions from folks. Says here, I'm being very clear, or I baffled you completely. Our budget priorities for the upcoming year, budget cycle. So there are three main priorities, like number one priorities, right? Tier 1 instruction, strengthening special education, and then our career, vocational, and technical education call for high. We're going to talk about each of these in a little more depth, right? So when we have a tier 1 instruction, and again, I want to make sure new folks understand this as well. You'll hear us talk about tier 1 instruction, tier 2 intervention, tier 3. Not tier 1 is like the Eagles, they're the ones who are advanced. Tier 2 is the Blue Jays, and tier 3 is the Moles, right? It's not that at all. Okay, and people get that confused with leveling. Okay, tier 1 instruction is the core instruction that we do in every classroom every day for every child. It's like the basic guaranteed curriculum. It should be high quality, should be rigorous, should be engaging. Okay, but every student has access to that curriculum every day. Okay. Tier 2, when we talk about tier 2, is sort of the next level of support. That can be for students who are struggling in a specific area, specific standard, within math or math in general. It could be for students who have special education services or not. Okay, but it's really sort of these kids need the tier 1 plus a little more. Tier 3 is typically special education services and specialized instruction and additional support. Okay. When we talk about tier 1 instruction, we're talking about we really need to continue to work on the high quality instruction that engages students in deep learning, leads to academic achievement, okay, and also even more specifically, the professional learning, curriculum materials, and tools to support high quality materials instruction. You have results that we see across many indicators, okay, which are 20, 30, 40%, okay, meets and exceeds, or 40, 50%. That signals that you have a tier 1 instruction challenge. You've got to really strengthen. You've got to strengthen other areas too. We'll talk about that in a moment. But you really have to need to focus on that. And the basic concept there, and belief and research shows this, is that you can't tier 2 your way out of that. Now, you can't possibly provide so many small group learning opportunities that you get the 60% or so kids who aren't meeting exceeding the standard. It's an impossible math problem. Okay? You can't supply that much staff, you don't have that much time, basically. Okay, what we should be able to see is really strong tier 1 instruction. You're getting 60, 70, even more percentage of our students to meet and exceeds. So, and just again, briefing, some folks know this already, but want to give you up to speed. We're spending a lot of time on high quality curriculum materials, K through 8 especially, okay? Middle school for the first time in a long time, just starting a few years ago. That's revamping the curriculum in math and in ELA. It's important to know that those things hadn't happened in Manly Middle School for, I don't know how long, okay? Where you have a guaranteed common curriculum that all teachers are teaching. Working together to understand and know how to do. Another example of the tools to support it are our technology, but another tool is the curriculum materials. Okay, the materials we have to buy every year. Okay, we used to have textbooks, right? And now it's often online or often apps, this sort of stuff, or digital materials. You have to keep on investing in those as well. We have to provide the learning and support and tools and materials and training, I should say, for our teachers to really have high quality instruction. It's not enough to say, just go ahead and do it. Specifically, our tier 1 approach and more inclusive practices and more co-teaching. Okay, that helps all general ed students and special education students do better. Okay, and that's a model we're continuing to develop and need to continue to invest in. Okay. In the professional learning, specifically for our paraprofessionals, they have a really crucial role in supporting our students, especially some in tier 2 support, but also in our inclusion in our general ed classrooms. And until probably about 2 years ago, so maybe 2 or 3, they started doing a much better job in training paraprofessionals. I think about doing more support than them in most districts, honestly. But prior to that, and in many places, training and supporting paraprofessionals doesn't exist very much. Okay. They're such a crucial part of our any school system that they really need that support, that training, that respect. Okay. So that's just tier 1 instruction, okay? And you'll see as we go along, you'll see schools talking about the different areas that they're working on this, what they need to improve. And you'll hear us go back, tell you more about these areas. Let me pause there just in terms of tier 1 instruction.
Through the chair, I do want to just make a comment then on the fact that we've started up this improved student learning group and looking at data and really how interesting that has become in that, you can almost see through that, the areas of need, like, and I think the other thing to remember is when we talk about the 60%, it's not like the whole 60% is just swimming at the bottom. There's many that are really close to that line of, can we push those kids, those students across the line, so to speak, to get them into an area that should improve the overall picture of a student learning. And I just think it's important to remember that it's not like there's some progress and there's some tools being utilized that can kind of indicate that we're moving in the right direction.
I just had a sort of comment question on the tier 1 shift. Because I know from my late elementary child that I know that we're based on like sort of what you said earlier around our cell phone thing, that for many years there was a lot of work going towards putting curriculum online. And now I know that's being pulled back to some extent. So I'm assuming that part of this tier 1 development is sort of figuring out maybe the sweet spot on that, because it feels like maybe it's gone too far. We didn't know. I don't mean we, I mean we globally. But so that's just a piece that I'm seeing already in some of the teaching, that there's a pulling back from the Chromebook.
Not sure if you want to add to that, just in terms of just the process of as you introduce new curriculum, that sort of balancing act, right? But also some of the recent conversations about technology as well.
So we are seeing, and a good example of that is at Emily. We've adopted a new ELA curriculum. It's our 3rd year full implementation, and now we're in our 2nd full year of implementation. during any implementation of a new curriculum, first year, teachers are always told, teach the curriculum to fidelity. Exactly how it comes, teach it. That you get a lot of grumbles about that because, you know, there's a special sauce of teaching, but you can't adjust a curriculum until you know it. Right, so it's very important to go through the curriculum for a full year, and a lot of it was online, right? And to really understand it. Now that we're further along, we're able to look at which lessons we can take offline, which lessons can we adjust and do that special, the instructional moves that teachers do all the time to make teaching come to life, right? And something that I think Principal Titus mentioned when he was here last, but it's something we both have been kind of, we keep coming back to, is that now that the curriculum is aligned, high quality curriculum at O'Malley, we are able to focus on the instructional moves and not the curriculum itself. We have found a curriculum that is solid, that is high quality and agreed upon and accepted by all teachers and being taught by all teachers. And now we can go from classroom to classroom, and we're starting to do learning walks with teachers so they can go see their peers teaching the same lesson and talk about, why did you go offline for this particular part of the lesson? What was the engagement strategy that you used to bring students into that learning instead of just being online? When is it a nice time for a turn and talk so that there's more student discourse? So we're able to have really amazing discussions about instruction, not just, why did you pick that article to teach this standard, right? Because we've agreed upon the articles, we've agreed upon the readings. Now it's, what are we doing to make it come alive? And it's amazing to see teachers get really excited about doing that. We just did a version of learning walks yesterday for the math curriculum. And it was wonderful. You go to one classroom and you see one thing and you see another, the same lesson down the hall, but it's taught a little different. And it's the same standards. And then teachers are seeing that and they're asking each other, so what was your choice to stay online in this one? And what was your choice to have student discourse here, right? And it's amazing to see. It's great. It's great.
I'm gonna ask a question only because I don't remember when we first purchased Wit and Wisdom and started the implementation, and also the math, which is called
Math and focus for elementary.
Did we visit other schools, be it modeled in other schools? The curriculum.
For math in focus, that actually was adopted before I came here. I know in my
Before you
previous,
came here,
yes,
elementary?
yes, for elementary. I actually came to Gloucester from my previous district to see math in focus because we did a site visit here. But for Wit and Wisdom, there was reaching out to other districts. There wasn't a ton, it was around, there wasn't a lot of going there.
Yeah, I know.
Right, yeah. And then for O'Malley, there certainly was a lot of discussion, but they tested out the curriculum.
So I'm trying to get to the point of, we have other schools in the same curriculum, which is a model for us. We shouldn't be necessarily have to be reinventing the wheel here, right?
Right.
I mean, I understand students learn different districts and things like that, but how successful? I mean, do we have the best curriculum? Is it showing success in other districts? You know,
Right.
our scores are here, right? And we're trying to get there. Have districts that use the same curriculum, have they seen progress and how long? And what did they learn through their implementation as opposed to us trying to figure out? Do we have those kind of conversations? Do we?
I
Have
had
those
some of those
support
conversations with colleagues in other districts, but we haven't had teachers go. Very interesting idea. We've been focused on teachers going classroom to classroom so that they can collaborate in real time.
Right, no, I
But
understand
that's
here.
certainly something we could explore.
I'm just thinking if a district has shown success,
Right.
let's learn from that success, right? Instead of trying to figure it out with more time passing. So do we know of other districts that are using the same curriculum that we could?
So you could look at, DESE has a list of whether, we certainly could do that research.
DESE, it's on DESE, what curriculum each
Yeah.
week?
Yes.
Desi knows that, I'm not sure they published publicly.
I know I can see it. I'm not sure how public it is, but I know I have the privilege to see it.
I mean, to me, that seems like a
I
great
think it
professional
is.
development to
I think
have.
it is public.
It's partner with another school that's
Yes.
5 or 6 years ahead of where we are, right?
Right.
Probably no one's really that far on with the wisdom. there are real complexities about having teachers leave schools. Even leaving classroom just to visit.
No, I understand that,
Yeah,
but-
that's
There could still be a collaboration of some sort,
Yeah,
some time of
especially-
day. That could be very helpful and positive and influential to our district instead of trying to figure it out. I just feel like we've been trying to figure it out for a long time. It'd be helpful to see a model of success and know that we can get there too using the same processes and procedures they did, if it works for our kids, you know, our population.
Would be interesting.
I'd be curious to know more about that. Andrea?
I just wanted to talk, Amy, you answered a lot of questions that I was about to ask about HQIM and tier one. I just want to make sure that it's not invest heavily in tier one at the expense of tier two. I know that HQIM is something that DESE is, it's a buzzword right now. I've sat in a lot of PD with it. What does it mean? High quality instructional materials. A lot of DESE initiatives sometimes fall by the wayside in a couple of years, just once we've got it under our belt and we're ready to fly. Now we're gonna go on to a new acronym. I'm very glad to see professional learning and development up there, but I would also think that we would need it for everyone because it is a mindset shift. In that I think for a long time it was differentiate. And I think maybe we over scaffolded and over accounted for things. And it became overwhelming. But that being said, like that's also like as an educator myself, that's my comfort zone now. So to be going full bore into tier one and having to say, okay, all of these tools that I have in my toolbox, I might need to push aside for a little bit can be overwhelming. But I also wanted to point out that we have teachers that teach foreign language. There is no HQIM for foreign language. There is no HQIM for any specialist teacher. It is only if you are a core content teacher, and that concerns me as well. How are you going to support those people as well? Well, everyone else is benefiting from HQIM. There's also a subset of teachers that are not, and right now, even at the state level, there's nothing for them to really fall back on.
Yeah, and I'm gonna stick with O'Malley because that's a good example of us trying to spread beyond just the core. So we focused my first year as assistant on ELA, and then the next year was math. Last year we really looked at 6 and 7 social studies because DESE released investigating history as a model curriculum, right? So we really looked into that and we did combine. This year, we are starting slowly, but a closer look into health. There's not a HQIM on that, you were correct, but doesn't mean we don't look at the curriculum. It doesn't mean we don't update it and revamp it, right? So we're just at the very, very beginnings of that. We're also starting to talk about looking at civics. So that's 8th grade civics is different than 6 and 7, right? So we're not there yet. But, you know, we can't change everything all at once, right? And so we going through, O'Malley, we're starting to go through beyond just feeling now, right? We need to do that beyond, absolutely, but, you know.
It doesn't happen overnight.
Right,
Yep.
right. And it depending on, like, for elementary, teachers who teach multiple subjects, you can't do multiple subjects at the same time, it's overwhelming, right? So you have to spread them out. We are at the very beginning stages of looking at math at the elementary level as well. Thinking maybe next year we because we have had math in focus for a very long time. And to take a look and see if is that something that we reaffirm because it's like it or it's working, or is there something else out there? And that might be when we do start to go to other districts to kind of take a look and see what they're doing. Yes. So we're kind of going through, curriculum review is always a cycle, we're gonna come back around it because that's how it goes, right?
One last thing, just before we move on to special education, which is, you made a professional learning, so a couple of things I want. So, obviously, professional learning support any changes in curriculum, material instruction. We've called this one out specifically of paraprofessionals because it's something we've been doing for a couple of years. We don't want to let go of it. Want to keep on, and also we want to keep on doing it well. The other piece is in the new contract from last year, we also were able to have now more time to work with them. professional. So they have more time to learn and do professional development. So that's something we want to, utilize basically, okay? So that's why, and it's also less common, so that's why we're doing it, figure it out. Because what I sort of mixed over, I skipped over was this first line here. These are continuous investing in the strength of our highest priority. Things we've been working on already, we need to keep on investing. And a key example of that is strengthening special education. So the specific areas there are district programs and special ed construction. So district programs, you may or may not know that really heavy investment over this past year in this budget. And because of that, adding staff even after the budget was approved, we'll talk more about it as we go through this budget process. But it's really made a big difference in schools. And I'm not going to say, and Mike would also agree with me, it's like, oh, been there, done that, we're all solid, it's all solid, all set. No, really good steps this year because of some of the strengthening of the programs and their design, some of the support we're doing with teachers and the principals together. We're doing that development in progress, but step away from those. These are our highest need students. Want to make programs available to our students that help them stay here, at their local schools. And that's the most effective way to do it. And also build programs that are for the students we have now, okay, or the students that are coming, that sort of stuff. So these are real heavy investments. We'll talk a lot more about the details of that and the programs themselves as we go forward. But it's an area that we have to continue investing. And specialized instruction, really, that's on a variety of places, but one of the areas we started last year was on specialized reading instruction, especially in elementary schools, and that's an area we want to continue to invest in as well. I won't say more about that now because we'll be getting more information, but folks have questions now about either one of those areas. Happy to have Mike add more or add more detail.
You can tell us anyway.
Well, no, we have a lot to do tonight.
Text.
Yeah, you'll have plenty of time, I promise. Okay, and then Career Voc Tech. So again, as you may know, I've been really having some significant investments over the last few years. I'd say 4 years in planning and strengthening Voc Tech. This is an area, for what we talk about is that, we're pretty agnostic on what step you take after graduation, but it better be a thoughtful step, but better be one that we prepared you well for. But, our graduates can create fantastic lives and contribute to their communities through many paths. That's another way of saying it's important, whether it's a 2-year college, a 4-year college, community college, a Voc Tech program, the working world, gap years, apprenticeships. We want to make sure that they get a chance to think through a wide variety. And one of the crucial ones this year, our students, our community for employment is Voc Tech. And so really wanted to stress that, grow those programs, grow the enrollment. So our programs we had, auto, electrical, advanced manufacturing, carpentry, the effort there has been to strengthen them and also get our students, especially out of the school more, those partnerships. That's taking a bunch of investment in work, including staff, leadership. And then, as you probably know, we launched medical assisting in our full exploratory program this year for the first time after a few years of development. And they're brand new. We want to continue to invest in them so we cement those. And medical assisting actually has the advantage of being some significant grant funding. Next 2 years, we'll talk about that. But over time, those dollars got to come on the operating budget. For example, that this year we had very significant private funding or grant funding, really private funding on auto that helped pay for the bulk of our second auto teacher. Okay, that is ending after 7 years. It's time for us now to take that amount on the operating budget. That's part of the investment we have to do. Thoughts on that before I go ahead? Those are the highest priorities, okay? We have some other priorities, right, which are lower down. They're important, but they're harder to do at this point in the way we probably want to invest in the first 3, okay? It's not because they're not important, it's because we ultimately have to make choices. And so multilingual learner instruction, so English learner families. We've done quite a bit of support and services and really improved that communication, connection with our families and our learners. That I think they overall have a much better sense that the welcome in our schools is an important part of our schools than a few years ago. And we have to really improve instruction and curriculum in those areas. May not be do quite as much as we want. We'll do that as best we can. but certainly an area going forward, we can continue to focus on and continue to prioritize. And then of other areas, again, number 3 here. So tier 2 academic support, so is extra additional part. Now I will say this, effective inclusive practices in co-teaching in the general ed setting really is a way of helping with additional support and tier 2 support, okay? It's different than a pull-out model, okay? When we talk about here, is sort of, the additional that may not be in the classroom. It may be a small group, that's sort of outside the classroom. That takes more staff, obviously. It's hard to do that, but it's something that we're aware of the need for it. And we'll continue to try to do that beyond inclusive practices, beyond co-teaching as best we can. The last thing isn't necessarily a budget impact. It's something that I've been trying to tell because it has potential impact on budget or impact on operations, which have impact on budget. That's transportation since COVID, basically. Across the region, across the industry, we've had fewer drivers, hard to get new drivers. Two drivers who are two bus drivers who are retiring over the next 9 or 10 months. There's real risk there that lack of drivers can impact schools in a number of different ways. Okay, I will say we have 4 drivers in training right now. I've never said that in my life. Okay, and that's a lot. The most we've ever had in the past is 2. Okay, but the folks had a pattern of hiring drivers, having them go through training, and at the same time that they're entering the driving students, lose a driver to retirement, moving away, that sort of thing. So we've had this up and down, haven't quite got to the threshold. Okay, if all 4 of these drivers, we have wanted to get to 4 additional drivers for a long time. This will give us 4 additional drivers. We're losing 2. Okay, so it's a net of 2 plus 2, right? So anyway, that's hopeful. We're just beginning. We're gonna meet with them maybe next week, just to rah. Okay, tell them we love them.
Bring donuts.
Donuts or whatever it takes.
Candy.
Yeah, good for you. Yeah, right. But just so you know, that can cause a level of complexity that impacts every single day. Okay. That and things like the cut bridge being repaired, okay? Just that transformation isn't really a budget thing necessarily, but it could be coming. Those are budget priorities for the upcoming year, budget development cycle. Any other questions for now? We'll finish with, we don't need to go into this, but you have your budget packet there. It's colorful. Looks like this. Okay. This is just the long-term budget needs we laid out last year. Okay, first time we incorporate this into our budget, and that is the sort of positions and other pieces that we need to invest in over the upcoming years. We're not put a time frame on, okay, because you never know what happens on a budget year to year in municipal finance. But you see the blue column is the long-term needs and lays out the cost, sort of that last year, what that'd be. The green is what we were able to do in FY26, and then what wasn't included. So we're looking, as I mentioned before, we're looking at this now in terms of the new budget ask and request we want to accomplish for next year, and seeing if this is still relevant. Like I said, many of the things we're hoping to do next year, if we can add, if it's a big if, I'll talk about it, this still holds true, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And that's just for, again, context and background, getting folks up to speed and sort of remembering where we were a year ago.
Can we go to what we know now?
There we go. This is the last slide. Okay, so a few things we know and a lot we don't know. Okay, and that's the nature of developing budgets in schools and in the South. So what we know now about healthcare, project to increase 14.5% over last year. Okay. That 40.5% is again projected and likely to change, hopefully downward. That includes a projected 10% increase year over year just on the cost of our healthcare and what we approved last year in our health costs. There is, in addition to that, the 4.5% is we had to add positions during this year, and we had to increase costs this year from our healthcare providers, okay, during the school year. So that's got to be absorbed into the budget as well. And that's why it's 14.5%. The annual increase plus the increases we incurred during the school year.
So just to confirm, GIC doesn't come out with their figures until around the first week of March.
Right.
So that, this information isn't based on that.
Right, it's projection, but this is our projection.
So it could be worse.
Yeah.
Could be better.
Yeah.
It could be worse.
So far, probably these one guys, I would say,
Well,
whenever we project it conservative. So it has gone in our favor once those numbers come out, but you're exactly right that GIC, which sets the rates that we operate on.
General insurance,
Thank you very much.
group insurance.
we're hearing on the state side that it could be a little worse, that's why I'm asking.
Yes, no, we're hearing a lot from lots of people. I'll get to that in a moment. Mayor Lundberg, I think your first full day in office, maybe, I'm not sure. Your first meeting with the department managers, including school, including myself. Charged us with creating level service budgets and bring those forward. Level service meaning the same services and everything we're doing now, but then you're increasing it in terms of the contractual and functional increase. But that's for Mayor Lundberg. If you want to add to that now, you can, but I want to make sure the committee knows you've given us that direction.
Yes, that's the direction that everyone has received. And, you know, from a school budget standpoint, which is a significant part of the city budget, you know, the approach of saying what the goals are in terms of instruction and the effect of the instruction is the great place to start. And, you know, my goal is to have us come to a budget that we all agree on and support, and so that when we go to the city council, we can all advocate for that. And I think we can do that. We may want to, you know, articulate in terms of what we think the educational needs are that the budget supports. We want to be able to talk about goals, objectives, and accountability and all that good stuff, which is what I'm going to hold the other departments to. But I think we have the tools to do that. We have, you know, I mean, they're I'm going to say wonderful. There are really detailed measures that we use, and so I think that we can put together a budget that has, you know, in its foundation, the education mission there. And who knows about, you know, the revenue part of this whole budget process? It could be it is definitely a wild card, and it could be all over the place. But we'll deal with that when we get to it. The most important thing for us to do, and that I would like to be educated on, is you know, the tools that we're putting together, that the professionals are putting together to make, you know, our foods competitive in the world. And I think we've got a great start for that. So I'll say that, and we'll work together on it.
Great, and always need help, you know, especially us, you know, community messaging and making sure we're stating the best case, and all will be helpful. So
yeah.
And that goes to the next thing is just the outlook for the state's murky and changing. Okay, you know, the government budget, what they call House One, is released in late January. There isn't a tax revenue forecast for a variety of organizations. They are mixed, but typically lower in past years for the state revenue. And the legislature has not. They typically agree on a revenue number. I mean, the House and Senate leaders agree on a number to go forward with and build their budgets from. That hasn't been released yet. So that's just where we are. So in terms of the whole process statewide. We also really aren't clear, and nobody is clear because it changes all the time. The impact of change the federal level. And just very confusing. And it's unless it's confusing, meaning not only do we not know, but from all we have heard is it changes day to day. It's just yeah.
So is there any federal funding that has not come our way that we are relying on our current budget?
Oh, we have FY26?
First, FY26.
No, like the title.
Title one,
Start for FY26.
FY26.
FY27 is a different question, but FY26.
Well, we just don't know about
We don't know.
27, right? We haven't gotten any messaging about
Yeah.
27.
Well, 27, we have got some, we've gotten vague conflicting messaging around things. Okay, what I mean by that is we know total dollars are cut. Okay, we don't know how they're going to be allocated, and we don't know what flexibility states will have to allocate them. We don't know that, and those are the important pieces, obviously, right? So we know they've been cut. So I can't rattle off how much they've been cut, but pretty significant, but they'll also be consolidated, so the guidance from the state on what we should do or don't do in terms of that, we just don't have. So that's why it's. That's all budget piece here. What's next is calendar next. Right, that's good.
So in your packet, you show the calendar of this. I'm gonna try to share it. So if you can see it well. Yep, I'm just getting it on the screen. So you'll notice at the top, this is for school year 27-28, not for next school year. Starting maybe 3 years ago, we started approving calendars 2 years in advance. Help with families to plan, for teachers and everybody to plan kind of their world, to know about when school will be in session. There have been times when we'd have to come back if a primary that we know about before the school starts, we might come back and change it if we have to, but right now it's looking like the calendar you approved last year for next year's F1 school year 26-27. There's no changes that we need to propose, so presenting is the following year, 27-28. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it is very similar to what we'll be doing next year. 180 days. We have built in 2 days before school starts for the teacher work days, which was a change that came out of the strike. It was moving that second professional development day at the beginning of the year. You'll notice any days in blue are half days. The majority of the half days, and they'll say right under the month, are professional development days. As of now, without any snow days, which doesn't always happen, but in 2028, the last day of school would be on June 13th. So it's a typical calendar that we've done year to year. These are just the dates for a year.
Just, we have and I really can't remember the election schedules, but there's no primary or election day.
So sometimes it's hard to find it so far out in advance. This year in September of 26, it falls on a teacher work day.
Right.
So
in 25.
Right. And so right. And so that works nicely. I think it's September 1st. So we can wait and see. Yeah. So next year I might say we need to adjust it by a day. Right. Because when the state moves.
You'll vote on that next meeting. Okay. I will bring up and we'll bring just the plan for this. Because Mark Monday is passing, there are 2 special election, primary and special election. Those dates are set by legislature. That's during the admin. March 3rd and March 31st. All just school days. So we're working closely with the city clerk's office to see if we can. We're not going to cancel those days. Okay, the release doesn't really help that much because you have the same challenges.
Right.
But it would be too onerous for families and staff. Everyone to change that also put us pretty deep into June. Because the calendar right now ends on a Thursday.
It's 18th.
And the next day is Juneteenth.
Right, so it'll be in the next week.
Even if we get one snow day next week. So, but we're making accommodations and work closely with the clerk's office. Get some different approaches of where to do it in the school, trying to have that close to the entrances and possible. Some schools like the high school don't change at all. Yeah, there's police presence all required on all locations. I think that's new, but different police, but that's all locations, so that helps as well. But but we'll communicate with, and then also parking issues, but there's complications, okay? But there are things I think we can plan for, account for, and communication, working closely with the city clerk's office, get through that. So I'll come forward and just go to the spots.
And clearly, I mean, one of the issues around this is we just have to be sure we're communicating constantly with parents about it all the time.
Yeah.
Do we have any recent experience having school on an election day?
Yeah, no, so up until 2 years ago, we had it every year, except for, we had the primary ones,
Yes.
but not the November one. The November one for years and years, has been professional development day.
Right.
So we have a lot of experience with that. And because, just give example, in Freeman and Plum right now, they're voting in the space that is the cafeteria, the gymnasium, and the library.
Yes.
It's all one. That, you can imagine, disrupts the day significantly, massively. Okay? Also because they don't want people walking through the spaces that people are voting.
Right.
Get it, obviously, but.
We used to have lunch in the classrooms and it is not ideal, but it is doable. And this isn't an extreme circumstance.
Yeah, we're looking for alternatives to using those spaces, those two schools and the other slight difference in West Parish, but let's work through some of the details. We'll experience doing it.
So, but it's all nitty gritty stuff, but if you need help working through that, let me know.
Right.
Because it's important that both things happen, that we don't cancel school, but we have we have to have the election.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But whatever we can do to make it easier on the schools instead of election.
Great, thank you. That really appreciate it, Tanya.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, go
how difficult is it to move to a different location for voting? Like if they picked, I'm just saying City Hall for, but
Yeah,
other
so-
places.
Yeah, so a couple things, there's some limit, so let me just say this, Grace Barrier was the city clerk, is a big help. Totally great person and city clerk, all that, and being very helpful. She's really hemmed in by the state laws and regulations, so
Yeah.
massively. Okay? One of them being voting has gotta happen in, I think, in the ward in that ward, so you limited that way. Okay? So we did talk about, because for a few years, the Plum Cove voting was at Lanesville Community Center. I raised that with her. And she was pretty clear that city council, the changing it temporarily to a spot and then moving to a new spot and moving it back is very complicated, very unfair for the voters, very confusing for the voters. It really harms turnout.
Right.
There's a cost of mailing. You got to notify people. The cost for that mailing is a cost of moving. So she was very, rightfully, pushed hard against that. So listen, that we really can't do that. Okay. So that's fair. So that was my first idea. I wish she'd said yes. I pushed it pretty hard, to be honest with you, respectfully. But no, there's limits. So that's one of them.
Parking is gonna be an issue. You have teachers who take up all the parking spots, so that's an access to voting issue.
So yes, and meaning in many places, like I talked to Grace about this as well.
Like email or.
Yeah. So we're already thinking about that, raised it with Grace, raised it with our principals today, talking about it. Might need some help from DPW or police on that one that's there, to cordon off or signage, that sort of thing, okay. And what Grace said was, in some polling places, that aren't on school, on a place where there's parking lot, voters have got to figure it out. Whether that's at City Hall, a Magnolia, library, there's a designated parking there. And so sometimes if you got to park, around the corner or down the block, that's reasonable and allowed. But we'll do we will message folks that, from being pulled away from the top lot, okay. We really want to cordon off some of the spots that here at the high school, the ones that were sort of right out front here. So we're thinking about that and working with plans, and that's an area we may need to. Sure.
I just think I can remember a couple of years ago, we had a big issue with it.
Yeah, they were the very big issue. It was a primary, I think, for the high school. What happened, because it was November 4th, made the mistake of having all the staff here that day, the polling location. People were rightfully upset because they had to park further away than they want to, or learn from that. And now we have, when we do everyone in one place, if that mailing, it's not a polling place. But that's what that was. Yeah. Okay. Move on to the next item, which is the polling prevention policy. And I'll give a little intro. Amy Pasquarello will show it, so you can see you have it here, another packet review. It begins with a summary of table key differences. Sorry, not.
You can show the difference.
Yeah, you can show some differences. I'll give a little preamble, then Let me sort of go through some of the areas of difference. So we, first of all, I want to credit Amy Cannon for your leadership on this, all her work on this. You're seeing part of it, which is the vision of the policy. You'll also see what looks like a pretty innocuous table of contents. Behind the table of contents is our bullying prevention intervention plan. That is the work that Amy Cannon has done over the last couple of months, really revamping that and making it much, much better. But what you're talking about tonight is a policy. We had not updated our policy, I think it's 2013. A lot's changed from that. We are required to review it much more frequently than that. We have not done that. And so you're getting the update. We're going to start with just a summary of the changes. And this, for new folks, in case you don't know this, Mass Association of School Committees, one of their real big services is they have a model school policy bank, okay? And they also, when there's a new policy or requirement for changes in existing policies coming from the state, they help all school districts with that revision. And for the most part, we go from that. Sometimes we make modifications within that, but it's a real good guidepost. And essentially, what we're doing here is updating it from the policy we had to their model policy, which is look across districts. Most districts have to be very similar. Okay. And so what Amy will do is just go through some of the changes from the one we've had to the new one. I'm going to summarize those for you, but and then show you a few other things that we can answer questions, ask questions. One last thing on the process. With the new policy, it's to go to 2 readings at the full school committee. A revision, you can just go through 1. I mean, you could potentially vote tonight if you choose to. I'd like you to for no reason, but you don't need to. You need to be comfortable with changes, understand them. We pause there at some point, would be great. I think you're the only remaining.
The only remaining.
Okay. So please chime in as we go along if there are things you want to add. Okay. We did make that one change that you asked.
Right. Yeah, the only thing I want to say is when you go through this, you can sort of see how dated this policy is. 2013 is a long time ago. And so Amy and the team had really made it far more encompassing of all the issues that are being dealt with bullying, and also the ways in which what defines bullying, what doesn't define bullying, and how you determine that. And so I just want to say that the program subcommittee asked many questions on that, and it was really quite well done and quite important, I think, to update.
Okay. Do you want me to? Okay, so I mean, I can go through this one by one, but what I think is really important is the former policy really focus on what bullying is not, and not really on what we do and how we do, how we investigate, how we respond, how we create safety protocol, how we notify parents, all that stuff. That's so important. So, so these key features are that. Right, so there's an investigation timeline that's explicitly stated. Within 14 days, the bullying investigation will be complete. There's notifications. By law, we have to notify in writing what the outcome of the investigation is, but we're actually going further than that. And we're notifying when there's been a report of a bullying incident to the aggressor and to the target, and to any witnesses that are pulled into the investigation. So we're, think that it's really important to keep parents really fully in the loop of the whole process. Obviously, and not obviously, I shouldn't say that, but with FERPA, we don't give specific student information, but we will say what the outcome was. There's an educational piece, there's a safety plan that was developed, whatever those outcomes are, okay? So false allegations, that just really speaks to, so we created grant helped me create an online bullying reporting form. We wanted to make sure that there was an anonymous capability. However, we also are clear that, that discipline or investigation won't solely happen. We will investigate, but that won't be it can't be primary. We have to do investigation with that report. So there's an anonymous capability with that. Then retaliation, there's an explicit retaliation statement. The really important thing with the bullying report, the bullying investigation, and as I'll show you the new operationalizing of this, is that we will have the opportunity now, because there's more tools to, there's much more thorough investigation, and witness investigation tools. And that the outcomes will be clearly, determined by the people investigating, and then we'll have a team that looks over that data to look at, trends. Is there cyberbullying that's spiking up? Is there racial slurs? Like whatever it is, that will guide us to know how we have to, intervene with educational and training and professional training. So I'm just looking at what else is really important. So basically, I just want you to see this, because this is really the operationalizing. This is what the district leadership received today from us. This is the. You don't have what? They don't have it. I'm gonna pass it around.
Okay.
This is the 2-page bullying investigation checklist. Okay, so every administrator that is responsible for investigating bullying, reports, retaliation, harassment, have this. And the first part is about receiving the report, so they will be notified. Usually I get the online reports and triage it. They'll get that immediately, 24 hours. Within 2 days, the families will be notified, and then safety is addressed first. So that's a whole section. And the safety plan will be developed. Then the third part is the investigation. The second part is the investigation. So that has all the forms have been created, newly created, and are attached in these as links. Right, so there's the investigation form, there's also the witness interview form, and then an outcome is done, like an outcome determination is made. It can be substantiated, unsubstantiated, inconclusive. It could even in the beginning be suspected that it's a civil rights violation or a Title IX. So that it's also instructions for who they contact for those. Before an investigation is launched for bullying. There's, different protocol. And then the third part is notifying the parents of the investigation outcome and any measures that are taken. And then we are going to house this in a leadership drive, and twice a year biannually, right? So I wrote biannually, that's right, because it's already laminated, I'm not doing it again. So, sorry, it's twice a year. The four of us will look over, and probably with Roberta, the director of human resources, we'll look over the data and see and modify this, which is a 22-page document where the table of contents that you received, it's got all those sections and all the links and cards and checklists. And a really important part that is, having parents know the problem resolution contacts at the state if they're not happy. And there's, like those are all the areas that this.
So let me just add
Okay,
this.
got it.
So.
Sorry.
Couple things. You're reading a policy there, right?
Yeah.
Amy's talking about the procedures, the bullying plan, which are all those pieces are part of the policy directs us to create those. Okay. You don't order the procedures, that's, the policy authorizes me, staff, to create these, make sure they're, and the policy requires them to be in existence and to follow them, right? But, part of what we have to do is make sure that the bullying prevention intervention plan is available, and policy are available to everyone. And public on the website, that's located, that is there now, I can show it to you in a moment where it is. But, I do want to say that this table of contents, which is in your packet, so it's at the end of the bullying packet here. It looks like this. We can give this to you, so you can see just all the pieces, all the parts are of bullying plan, which we'll do it later. Which Amy's just sort of showing you. We'll give you a moment, okay, for folks to look at is just 2 packets to peruse, which has everything that Amy's talking about. And this is what was shared with the principals today, and then also will be shared with assistant principals. Okay? But that's the procedures and the bullying prevention intervention plan, which is a requirement of the policy. But I wanted to focus on the differences in the policy itself.
So I just want to say from a program's perspective, because I was just gonna say what you said, like the procedures are not what we, just so everyone's clear, we don't vote on procedures.
We did the original.
Right, well, there's,
When
When
the
it
bullying
came down
came
from the state,
first,
so I think.
right, well,
We
that's
did
what I was gonna say,
procedures.
because in some things, when they come from the state, like, yes, like some of this lottery stuff, like we ended up having to vote on procedures.
Yeah.
But right, so, but generally, we're voting on policy, because that's our role as a school committee. But my question to you around this, are these procedures going to be in like this manual? Or
Yes.
Yes, okay, so in addition to being on the website, those will be part of what parents are introduced to at the beginning of the year. Okay, just want to be sure. So, but this time, the state wasn't requiring this change, we just were delayed on this change.
Yes, that's right.
Right, okay,
And there's some urgency to this because the state is honest about this.
right,
Okay, I mean, they called us a task, rightfully so.
right.
And needed to submit this.
Okay.
Very soon. But we need to get it right, and we have a committee to deliberate on it, and then vote to approve.
So to Amy. Can you walk me through? I'm a parent. I want to file a bullying complaint for my child. I know the big app is online or the availability to report it is very pronounced on our website. Yes. Go in there, I fill out a form, my child's being bullying, this is the evidence that I'm providing you through this form. Where does that complaint go to? And does it trigger anything to the state level? In other words, when a bullying complaint is filed, is it just the school that knows that? Or is there another agency that's notified by that one parent complaint at the beginning of the request?
The incident reporting form goes to me,
Okay,
and within 24 hours, usually it's much quicker than that, I notify the principal or whoever needs to be notified to launch the investigation.
what if you're not there that day? And I go through this at work about people who get emails directly, so is there a backup to that?
I will still,
If you are in Hawaii for a week,
Yes, so that is a concern.
is there a,
Real concern.
is there a backup?
Yeah,
Right.
right.
Because I get complaints about this,
Wait, so
parents
can
come
you
to me about this,
say-
why I asked.
No, but can we say, it's a great question.
it is
It's
great,
important.
we did talk
I'm sorry.
about that.
So one thing we talked about was, and it also go to the principal.
Somebody.
No,
like,
so what we don't have is, we don't have the ability to send it to specific people based on the form, okay? We don't have it
Okay.
yet.
So the form
But-
triggers an email to you.
Yeah,
okay.
but the question here though is, I mean, one thing that comes up in talking is, can we get it to two people?
Yeah.
Okay?
Can
And
you
then-
go to the superintendent?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's just, no.
Okay.
Good goodness, no, but let's see, we'll look into that, okay, because.
No, the concern,
So
right?
far, we're feeling confident and we get to these things immediately, but your point's well taken.
Have a backup.
We're done and seasonable.
Right, you have to.
Otherwise, it's not a system, it's just a person.
So in your,
So then you get the email.
Yes.
You're saying 24 hours to respond, even on weekends, or no?
I forward it right away.
You do.
Yeah,
Respond,
But is there an expectation for a
within
parent?
2 days,
So you're
parents will be
respond.
notified that an investigation is.
Within two, and that's school
A
days.
business
Within
day.
2
A
school
business
days,
day, right?
Yeah. Parents will be notified.
and that's, those two things are in the policy, so you know.
Yeah. So you respond within the 24 hours, but have 48 hours. When is the state notified that a bullying complaint has been filed, if at any time? It's my understanding they're supposed to be notified.
So the state is notified at the end of the year when bullying is substantiated.
Only at the end of the year, so they're not aware of
I believe
anything
that's-
until the end of the year, which is just statistic.
Well, they can go to a problem resolution
If they want to
if they're
appeal the
not
decision.
satisfied with that.
Okay. So within 48 hours of a business day, parents are getting some sort of response.
That's an investigation that's been opened.
It's been open. In other words, we've received your complaint.
And we're gonna look into it.
We're gonna look into this and we'll get back to you in what? So when does the investigation starts at that point?
I believe it's 14 days, is that right?
Once it's open.
So you have up to 14 days after that 48 hours to complete your investigation and then report back to the parent?
14 days, 15, I think we did, it's 15 days is the law. 15 days from report, not from notification, like I get the report, that's 15 days.
So it's that 20, all right, so you get a report sent to you, email, the clock starts ticking, even when you respond to the parent, the clock starts ticking.
Yes,
So then within 14 or 15 days, what has to happen?
the outcome, an investigation has to happen,
Okay,
and an outcome determination needs to be made.
okay.
And then within 2 days, I think, give me some two,
Upon completing the
then
investigation,
the parents.
the parents will be notified within, I believe we said 5 days.
So a parent can file a complaint, and like I said, I get
Right.
questioned about this all the time, so I just want to be clear. From initial complaint, it can take up to almost 3 weeks before a parent hears an outcome on a complaint. Is that what I'm hearing? I might be hearing it wrong.
Can I speak?
So,
It's-
one second, so there, I just want to say one thing, they're gonna be notified right away that an investigation's happening.
That it's
And if there's safety issues, it's gonna be addressed immediately with
Okay.
a safety plan, like, it's not, an investigation is after a safety is commenced. So they will be notified if there's an, like, a safety issue, like a safety concern, quicker than. They don't wait.
So if you look at, yes, with that, if you look at the bottom of page 3, okay, I'll come back to me, so this is what we're talking, the investigative procedures. It's the second last paragraph. Investigation shall be completed within 14 school days from the date of the report. Parents or guardians shall be contacted upon completion of the investigation, informed of the results, including whether the allegations are found to be factual, whether violation of this policy was found, or the disciplinary action has or shall be taken. At a minimum, the principal or designee shall contact the parents or guardians as the status of the investigation on a weekly basis. Here's what update.
Okay.
Then the intention on all of that, coming from the state, okay, in our policy, is to have folks, inform quickly, that there's quick action, there's thorough time for it to be thorough, but also keeping people moving.
Is there any role for the school resource officer in this process?
If it's a criminal act. So they can't be involved in our investigation unless it's a criminal. But they can be involved in like maybe an intervention at the end or like, educational piece.
So, and I'm asking,
Yeah.
pursuing this a little more. So when we went to the training at, not training, the seminar that we had at O'Malley last year, when we were having difficulty with a particular class and there was craziness at O'Malley. Our resource officers were there and basically presented to the parents and whoever was in attendance that they do not get involved in criminal investigations at the school. That was my walk away with that because it left me confused of why we have police officers in the school, but they're not there to conduct criminal investigations. They actually call someone in from the police department to do the investigation. So I'm just trying to figure out,
They're not there for disciplinary.
they're not there for discipline, no, but they said that they were not there for
Well,
criminal
no, I
investigations.
think what you want to separate
Yeah,
is the SRO being involved in criminal investigation of students, okay? Because what we want them to be involved in relationships and prevention.
I do,
Okay,
right.
so,
We also have police officers in the school and I'm trying to figure out what their role is, right,
okay,
as a police officer.
so, but we don't determine whether, what the state he's an investigator.
Oh, of course, yeah,
Right, so typically, we like to have it separate from the SRO to investigate a criminal. That's a bit different what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Very different.
Yeah.
Okay? So we don't want, SROs are not involved in sort of regular disciplinary practices.
right,
They often are involved in not reports of bullying, but reports of various things, because thankfully, they develop strong relationships with many of our students, and they're a trusted adult. So they may get a report of bullying, just like a principal might, and then they report to the administrator goes in the process of talking.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find out if anything, if the school resource officer has a role in this process at all, without not
Most
trying to
likely,
see
I'd
whether they
say,
should or not.
correct me if I'm wrong, most likely on reporting, first someone reports to them. Right?
Or
A
education.
witness.
Yeah, or education after the fact, it's more of an educational support.
So it's about a 3-week process and then you have some sort of outcome with some sort of plan or
Yes, and parents
determination.
should be updated along the way.
Thank you for that. Yeah, thank you.
Well, I just wanna say, my understanding, because I was at that same meeting, was what the SRO said was that they're hoping that their relationships that they already have allow them to inform if there's a criminal thing. They wouldn't be the investigator, but they could be a resource. That was my sense from what he said. But also to try to head it off before it becomes criminal act because of that was what I.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that, I'm trying to further attempt, because I can't remember the details.
I think, I've had this before, and I think that it's in the MOU, which we can refer to clarity. But, I do believe that if it becomes criminal and they're involved in investigation, it jeopardizes that criminal case. I feel like there's like a boundary there that they have outlined in the MOU.
And they become a witness to whatever.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
they can't be a witness.
But about information or designate information going to parents, my assumption is it's the accused bully or the person who's been bullied and any students who may be acting as witnesses, right? All those parents are notified in this process. That's my understanding. Okay.
So in the witness interview form that was created for this new operationalizing of the policy that we're gonna vote on, there is like a section that says parents who are like even a witness.
Parents need to be notified.
Just a couple of quick questions, Amy. One is the word, second paragraph, it says bullying is the repeated use of one or more students. Is for the repeated use by, does it have to be repeated? Could it be a one-off or it can't be?
So the guidelines are red, which is repetitive, intentional harm, and a power differential. Power differential could be 2 students to 1, it could be social power, it could be a lot of different ones that's defined.
Grades,
Upper grades, different age level. But there could be one act that is egregious enough that can be seen as bullying. And sometimes that's seen as cyberbullying or it's just above and.
It would have to be a substantial act to be a one act to.
Okay.
But usually it's rehab.
I just saw you shaking your head over there on that. Is that, any comment on that?
Well, just it's the repetition by definition, right, for bullying. It wouldn't be, it's exclusionary factor. If they only happen like one-off, then it's not bullying.
Yeah.
Well,
It's something else.
Good question. This is actually one of the things that I wrote down before I came in here. I know that prior, the policy had a lot of this is what bullying is not.
Yes.
And I feel like just in general, in the field that I'm in, and also like as a social media user, people use the word bullying when they mean your child is just not being nice. And I am wondering if it does make sense to keep what bullying is not in the new policy.
So yes, like well, I don't know about the policy, but online, we've expanded the website that where the reporting forms are that says this is bullying and this is not,
So that's there before you get to the form.
And it talks about more peer conflict and just exactly what you're saying.
A small devil's advocate question.
Go ahead, no.
Do you think people are gonna read it if they're already like up in arms about my kids being bullied?
Yeah, so we can communicate this and educate folks.
Yeah.
Because you're right, there's the lowercase b, which is used a lot, and
Yes.
b, which is the state definition, right, and that's the confusing difference, okay? So, we have it on the website a little bit right now, and then if you show, but you're right, it's gonna take education and also really till someone's actually involved in it, that's what it is.
Right, and I think about how many emails I get a day asking me questions that I've already answered. You know what I mean? I'm sure we all get those, and so I think about like, how many, can you put this in one more place? And is it worth it? Just to say, hey, I understand that what your child has experienced is unfortunate, and that other child or children were rotten to your kid, and that's lousy. But it doesn't fit our definition of bullying, which doesn't make you feel any better, but it's not a bullying investigation, but we can still handle it.
What I think, as opposed to the policy, what I think would be effective is we need a sheet. Again,
For sure.
This is bullying, this is not bullying.
Well, I'm
And that-
looking at the online, on the online checklist, and that's pretty helpful as far as what, to go to your point, right? They can check off the
Yeah.
box. I'm on the actual, as if I was recording one right now.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
great.
right.
So I'm looking at what they can check off, and of course it's an other, but it's pretty clear that it shows. To your point about putting it in the policy,
Yeah.
at least it is here online.
I have found as a former principal, conversation with parents about what bullying is and what is not, and talking about, is it repetitive? Was it intentional? Is there power balance? And having that conversation is very educational. But I think it's also, I want to make sure it doesn't get lost, that even if a parent reports something and it is not bullying, that doesn't mean we're saying, oh, go away.
Right.
Fine.
We are going to still address the problem.
Yes.
Like, even if it's the child isn't being nice, is it a one-time conflict? Is it an equal back and forth? Like, it could be all kinds of things, right? Whatever it is, we're going to address the behaviors and we're gonna make sure your child is safe, period. Whether we label it bullying or not label it bullying, that's a discussion we're gonna have. We're gonna follow the guidelines by the state. It has to meet the requirements. If it's a particularly egregious act and it's a one-time thing, it might get into bullying. That's unusual, but it can happen. But that's part of the process. And I have always found those conversations with parents are very helpful. And to have these guidelines and the reassurance, I can't say it enough, that whether it's bullying or not, we're gonna work to make sure your child is safe.
I have one more question about training and oversight.
Can I follow on your current thought though?
Yeah.
There's one paragraph in the old one, which, as opposed to all the examples that are given, which says bullying should not be confused with isolated conflicts between students and staff. And, at the point of somebody trying to like understand what our policies are, that eliminates probably some conversations. If it's, I mean, I realize it says repeated in the first one, but having it kind of reinforced with that it's not an isolated incident. Like, kind of a better,
Page 2.
have the parent figure out how to categorize it. Am I talking to the school about bullying, or am I talking to the school about someone wasn't nice to my child?
Yeah, so, right, so I think you're suggesting to us and to us in our committee that is the sentence, bullying should not be confused with isolated conflicts.
Yes.
Might be helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you have the parents' attention if we're looking at our policy
Yeah.
before they actually get to the point. Because between the policy, the policy and the form is a lot of chit chat between parents.
Oh, right.
And if maybe we could help
I don't think
them.
the policy ends up in the chit chat, to be honest. Like,
Well, so you read the policy, they say,
That
no, the
line,
policy.
so that line I think is helpful in the policy.
Yeah.
One line, not
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
things, but also that line's helpful also on the webpage. That line's helpful on
Exactly.
something we hand them.
Yeah.
Great.
Is it okay to go on? Training and oversight, it mentions volunteers. I'm trying to think of an example of a volunteer that's in school all the time. Like, I volunteer to chaperone dances, but you know, I don't have a lot of other opportunities. I mean, I've been in classrooms before, but I've been quarried, but no one has ever said, here's this training for you. So it says the old policy mentions providing training for all personnel and making it available to parents, and the new policy specifies that training for staff and volunteers must be annual.
So there is annual training for staff. Where are you seeing, is that in the policy?
it's in the changes.
In your summary
Okay,
table, you
yeah.
have two differences on the back of the page.
So at the beginning of the school year, staff takes a long list of mandatory.
Yes,
classes,
ethics
right?
training, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And bullying is one.
Yeah.
So that is done every. Whether we have volunteers taking them, we have to.
Okay, so actually, this is more, this sounds, okay, so, maybe it's not the bullying, so that would
That's
be
what I'm
that
wondering.
they would be the bullying
Would you say that we didn't want?
So My pushback a little though, are you in the, maybe you are in the library alone, are you usually a teacher in there with you?
There's only students.
With
Sometimes.
students, when they're students.
Sometimes. Because of the scenario now with the stage, sometimes the teacher just sends a couple.
Yep.
At a time. Not always, rarely, but there have been times when it's me and 3 or 4 students.
I actually think that when someone's getting called into volunteering for schools, they should do the online mandatory training that the staff does and review this new bullying prevention intervention plan and then confirm receipt.
So that was gonna be
Yeah.
my question. I'm not suggesting take out the word
No.
volunteers, I think it's great,
Yeah.
but I also am just curious, like, who's tracking that? Okay,
Yeah, that's great, but, and that could be done when any time a court is being done, this is necessary as well.
But when you're outside the schools, like I coach in a different district, I have to get the bullying training every year. You know,
your staff.
I guess I'm transferring to staff during my time as a coach, but
That's more than a volunteer.
Yeah.
definitely part of the whole
Yeah,
process.
But I could see that there's like volunteer extra coaches sometimes
There is.
too, that have significant contact.
Yeah, I didn't do anything like that when I did the 5th grade play, East Gloucester.
I just think
And I
about
would
it
put the kids
too,
alone.
in terms of like if I only want to volunteer to chaperone one dance, is it really necessary that I take the class? Cause I'm not gonna see repeated patterns happening in that 1.5 hour stretch, right? But I also know how hard it is at certain levels, how to get a volunteer. And if we create more barriers, it's very challenging. So I don't know if that's something to consider, like what level of volunteer would have to take this kind of training.
So I think we need to understand that better,
Yeah.
because you bring up really
Yeah.
good points in terms of, it's problematic to execute it. It's
Right.
problematic in terms of, just making higher barriers to volunteers, and it's something the state's required. So we need to get some better understanding of how it's actually executed in places.
And what is significant?
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
like, because not every
Right,
volunteer has sort of.
Right,
Significant.
That is a lot, that's,
Yeah.
and
The
if there's,
threshold.
if there's any consequence to the volunteer not complying with the bullying training, right? Like I can say I took the training, I'm only popping in for a couple dances, I took the training, but what happens if you don't follow through with what you took on the training? You know, it's
If
just,
you're a volunteer,
so
is
volunteers,
I
it's
think
tough
that's
to
bad.
expect. I mean, you can expect it, but you can't really enforce it.
So,
So,
so we're not gonna, so no, I don't hear any changes on that. But, we need some work for how to execute that. Understand what, and not, understand what the significant kind of mean. That's.
Yeah.
I think if it's a, like, for example, if it's an example, if it's someone who's chaperoning on a field trip. I don't think we're gonna put that person on there, right? But also, especially if it's a chaperone on a field trip. It's significant because you don't, your core, you won't be alone with students. Right? That's typically the case.
Yeah.
I mean, that's often the case that on a field trip you're not. So, looking at that, we'll add the sentence that Kathy turned to after Andrew's comment around what it's not. Other.
I love the timelines. I think as a person that wants to know that there's a resolution coming and I can look at my calendar, I love the timelines for communication. I think that's outstanding.
Also,
Good work.
so this again, just to peruse, either discussing or if you want another agenda item. This is sort of the printed out resources. What I hope you'll see is, especially the plan is very comprehensive. But also and the resources, again, systems mean their expectations for how to get things done. There's good resource materials to help people get them done. and train well on them, and then we hold them accountable, right? That's a system. You know, it doesn't break down if 10 people are doing it in a coherent, similar way. That's what we're trying to do more and more of. I think you'll see good, strong templates there that can be modified, obviously. But then the next step, so you know, we'll have a training on this work with all our principal, middle school and high school administrators together. Okay, and then Amy will go to each elementary school to work with their folks who be involved in this. That's really about just scheduling. People think they go all together, but it's hard to get them.
I have one more question.
Of course, it is.
Staff, I'm just thinking back to other issues that we heard about during the strike of people not being informed of resolutions of issues. If a staff member is a witness, that's one thing. For a reporter, that's one thing. They're in the loop. They're in the investigation and so on. If they're not, my assumption is that then they would be not informed. I just want, do you know what I'm saying?
Meaning, are you asking if we could tell a lot of folks or the school or the?
We tell staff members.
Yeah, no.
No, so the only, I think I'm understanding. The only time a staff member is notified of anything is if there's a responsibility in the safety plan that they have.
Right, okay.
So whether it's like, lunch or recess or, if there's a component that they need to know.
Right, in the safety plan, students often identify a safe adult, somebody to go back if they're having a challenge, and if that person's identifies a safe adult, of course.
But not just.
It's not right.
I think staff hears about these things, even if they're not intimately involved, but they know what this is.
There is a need to protect confidentiality of students and rights and.
So, tonight,
It's up to you.
vote the policy tonight. You're adding one sentence. If everybody is in agreement with the policy. And policy mentioned the volunteers part. Policy mentions volunteers, but it's more operational and
That's more procedural.
more procedural.
And
So maybe that's just a report. Have you flesh that out,
Sure.
operational.
So ultimately, so what you're getting at is, means someone make a motion. And then when there's a motion, someone seconds it, then there's further discussion. That's where, and sorry, the motion has to include the change in the language. Then motion, second, discussion. And at some point, discussion, someone basically just make their vote all the way.
So I move that we approve proposed revision to bullying prevention policy file JIFCB with the amendment that adds the line, things should not be confused with isolated conflicts between students or staff. In its early definitions.
Okay, moved and seconded. And just any further discussion, please? Okay, we're all present. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good work. Very good work.
Definitely have to do.
I tried to read clearly.
Great. Thank you, folks. That's very helpful. That's how things go in terms of a revision of the policy. Okay, and anytime if folks are comfortable with it, and the program subcommittee always helps with that. Usually get at it a couple times at least. That can happen school levels. Right. The next piece, that's right, is about Essex Tech. I'm gonna have you pull that off, but let me just sort of, you have it, the materials you have in front of you, or it starts with this. Let me just explain verbally what it is without showing anything quite yet, because yeah, not yet. But then if we need to put things up, we can talk through them. The background is this: Essex state for a number of years have been trying to get regional technical high schools like Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical and SAT to have more equitable admissions policies. Regional technical schools, there's a whole bunch of only, regular places all over the state, okay? We're a member community of Essex Tech, right? But among some folks, the sense has been they've become more exclusive. They use weighted formulas to decide who gets in, who doesn't get in. And some folks, like myself, believe that's inherently inequitable. Right? Initially, in many ways, the design was to give an alternative, very good alternative to folks who didn't want to go on a typical academic, college track. Okay, and that's this historical. Okay, many of them have become much different than that. They've actually become in some ways very, attractive option, and a very good option for those who are college bound as well. So the competition for and the interest in voc tech schools is really accelerated, especially at Essex Tech. They've done a great job expanding the facilities and the program in lots of ways over the past couple of years, right? But as they've had more and more demand, the selection process, admissions process has come under scrutiny. And so the state has recently said they had to go to admission and lottery process. And so every regional vocational high school and comprehensive high school cars needs to have a lottery process. We have a lottery process now ourselves. We enacted that, I want to say a year ago, but about 2 years ago. Okay. And that had to change a little bit because they were exploratory. But the matter at hand is giving an update on what Essex Tech is going through right now, because it does impact us. They're moving toward the admission, lottery admissions. They have in mid-December, they sent out to the member communities, the mayors and the superintendents, their draft of that. And what they said at that point was, without going into too much detail about it, but I'm happy to go into more detail if it's helpful, is that they created minimum numbers. They explained what the lottery process would be, and they explained that they had minimum targets for every community who's a member community, okay? And also at large communities, all right? They based that minimum targets on the last 3 years of enrollment. Yeah, thank you very much. Our number is 23. That's a little bit lower than our per class, per grade, admitting grade. That's a little bit lower than what we've had. We've had about 26, I'd say, give or take a couple every year. But that's okay. One concern that I raised, so then when that came out, there was some concern from the community saying, hey, wait a minute, we don't know what this is, it's going pretty fast, like we need some input. Essex Tech did a great thing. They had all the communities come to a public meeting, just in the meeting in January 6th. Mayor Lumber was there. The city's representative of the Essex Tech School Committee, Val Gilman, was there. I was there. And then lots of other members of the school. It's a good presentation. At that time, a number of 4 superintendents gave a sort of counter proposal or suggestions, feedback, using a sort of different calculation, okay, that wasn't based on recent enrollment. Okay, and their school committee is considering that now. There's just back and forth about it. It's happening. The school committee is discussing it. We expect them to have a vote, I think, on the 22nd of January. And I just want to say one thing, which is, I think that number fits for us as a minimum. Okay. But what's an open question, I don't think we got a good answer on this yet, is what sort of a maximum? Okay. It's not, even though I asked the direct question at the meeting, maybe Mayor Lumber understood it better than I did. I didn't get a clear answer on what happens when you get into round three and beyond here. That's sort of when they get to the at-large lottery list. And can you keep on filling Gloucester, say, well beyond 23 into 30 to 35 into 40, okay? Essex Tech has grown a lot lately, okay? Not quite double, but almost that in the last 10 years. There is some discussion about limiting that growth, okay, because that's a concern we have. And our enrollment has stayed pretty steady over the years. It's likely to go down some because of impact on immigrants in the country. Other communities have been declining over quite a bit. So what they see is their enrollment declining, and their enrollment at Essex Tech is going up. They've got some real concerns about it. Right? You know, I've got concerns about that, but because I want to educate all the children here. Okay, I will say one anomaly here that you're just sort of starting to understand this. That a number of our students, number of Gloucester's students, okay, students who live in Gloucester, who attend Essex Tech, a number of them actually never went to. Going from O'Malley to Essex Tech, they were in a different school, another school before going to private community, whatever. We're just sort of getting a handle on that. We haven't really thought about that too much prior to getting this. Anyway, the point is, more students who go to a regional technical high school, that comes out of the city's budget. It's a charge to the city that's separate from our operating budget, but the city's taxpayers, who pay for all this, pay for that as well. So that's a concern. I'm raising concerns and trying to understand the process. The one thing I'll also say, which makes this even more complicated, is like you never want to, you know, Essex Tech is a great educational option. I mean, I wish we had those facilities here and all those options here. Right? Not possible. They're not going to high school to do. Right? They've got some really significant advantages, which is to their credit, and that's the way the state has done it. Okay? It's a great option. You wouldn't want to limit families. Okay. We do want to have some predictability and some sense of limitation on what can be pulled from this, okay, especially because you're caught. So that's just there's a value there, sort of operation logistics and budget. Those are comments. So just want to make sure nothing more than you're aware of it, right? It may or may not change from what the proposal is. Just some information I've gotten, which is informal. I think that's probably where they'll end up in the proposal. There might be some tweaks and sort of stuff they are considering, and sort of limiting their growth. So it's been really see that. We pause there, see if that's helpful, or you can ask questions or concerns or stuff.
And did you say that there was this small group of superintendents came up with an alternative?
Yeah. I can explain that.
Does our number change on that?
Yeah. So what they did, try to explain as best I can, is every district, through what's called a school attending report, identifies all the students in their community, in their city or town, that are school age. Okay, we actually get reports from private parochial schools, and you see that in school choice numbers. Okay. So and they're the biggest districts. So if you look at the Danvers, Peabody, Salem, and Beverly, okay, they came to us, asked if we could support it. I'll explain why we don't. Second. And they looked at school attending, and what they said in all these communities, all the communities that are listed here, okay, you take all the students that are school age or high school age rather, all those communities, okay, and you add them all up, and you take the percentage that Beverly has of that total, percentage we have of that total, and total students. Take those percentages and apply those to the 425 students that Essex Tech is shooting for. Okay, it's a reasonable approach. Okay, it treats everyone across the same in a way. It doesn't account for things like distance. Doesn't account for things like makeup of the different communities and stuff. Okay, ultimately for us, it actually changed the 23 number pretty significantly. My thinking on that is raised it quite a bit.
Like 28, right?
No, I think like 35.
35.
Yeah, 35. Okay. We'll quote on that. The reason for that is because, like I said, a number of our students who go to Essex Tech actually don't go to our school. We have a pretty high number of students who are choicing out. Okay. So if you just that's the reason that it doesn't advantage us. It advantages us pretty significantly, spreads that out there and raises a lot of other folks, including us, quite a bit. It probably could raise it in some places that you can't actually do it. Can't actually really influence. I think, for sure.
And those are students that were never in the Gloucester Public School. I mean, they choiced out of somewhere.
Yeah, right. It just so you're looking at different things, and so again, that's a proposal. It's not us. We can advocate with advocate on behalf of what we want. It is. You asked about it. It is a weighted vote.
Well, I think part of, if I may.
Yeah, and just tell folks your history, because you used to be on the school.
So I was on this committee for 10 years. chair of the school committee for 2 years, bringing the two schools together, developing the admissions policy at the time, and moving the school forward for the first 2 years that the school was open. It opened in 2014. I left in 2018. So a lot of conversation. I think a big part of this that isn't being discussed is, bottom line is, it comes down to money for communities, right? And we've all recognized that there's benefits to go into the tech that municipalities can't provide here for fundings, right? When you're a regional district, you can say what you want, pretty much put it forward. If everybody votes for it, the communities have to pay for it. Part of the issue with this, which I've been having extensive conversations about this topic with several people over the past couple of weeks, is so not only do we pay for the enrollment per pupil, which is very similar to what we per pupil cost here in Gloucester, but depending on the percentage of enrollment to the school, the municipality pays that debt service as well. In other words, when I was there, Gloucester was always about 10% of the student population. And the debt service, it's a 20-year loan at the time. I don't know if they've extended it based on building out and what they've been doing over the past couple of years since I left. But Gloucester has been paying 10% of the debt service for the school as well. So not only are they getting a tuition bill, but they're getting, you're paying for the school bill. And I can't help but wonder through all this, what happens, say Gloucester pays 10 to 12% based on 23 to 35% of the students going each year.
Yep.
Does that increase what Gloucester has to pay for the debt service? But what happens in 12 more years when that debt's paid off? So technically Gloucester should own a percentage of that school, no longer pay debt service. So what does that say for who's going to be enrolled, the enrollment should be in that school? If we paid for 10 to 15% of that school to be paid off, there's an expectation that we should get our seats filled according to at least that, correct? But then that goes against the whole right to vocational education and how students get selected. This is a mess. And I've actually asked Bruce Tarr, I said to legislature, you helped us when we were going through some difficult times up there to make decisions. I take the position this shouldn't be a school committee decision. I think there should be more direction coming from the state. They're the ones that are changing the guidelines on admission. And I would think that they want it consistent in all the vocational schools throughout Massachusetts, not allow the individual school committees to come up with a variety of different admission plans, because they do have flexibility right now to do that. You would think that the state would want it consistent across the board and address issues like ownership of the building when the debt service is paid off, because we will see that happen. You know, it was a 20-year debt. So this is such a bigger conversation, and now with threats of one community might pull out if the Wade vote doesn't go its way, it's turning into a mess. So I'd really be surprised if this even it's implemented as quick as they want it to be, which I think they want to start it next month.
Yeah, because they're approaching their admission season.
Yes, right.
So there's an urge on their part.
I would just encourage the state to put a hold on it, get more eyes on the actual conversations that are happening between the communities with the higher weight votes that are actually getting to be the decision makers in this, and not the smaller communities. Doesn't matter what they vote, because if you have a weight vote, Peabody, Salem, Beverly, and Danvers, and potentially Gloucester as the fifth, are making the decisions for all the other 12 communities, and is that fair? So it shouldn't be a weight vote, in my opinion, but that's another legislative issue, because the weight votes are dictated by the legislation that developed that school. So it's a mess.
So the state's already mandated it go to the lottery system, right?
Yeah, but the issue is.
But it's the type of lottery system, right? There's flexibility with the school committees, and I get them wanting to have that flexibility, but at the same time, it is now put school committee in a position where the larger communities are dictating and threatening, I'm gonna pull my students if this happens because we can no longer afford it. I think we need the legislature involved to guide through what's going on, because the weight vote issue creates the decision, it takes away the flexibility, I think, that was intended to be there for the school committees. So it's a mess.
I'm not sure if you're doing any of this, but do you push, almost market our tech program to the O'Malley kids?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, do they, yeah, since I wasn't I didn't know about the medical program, and my children are doing it now, which I think is the coolest thing ever. It's actually how my younger sister became a nurse. But yeah, I mean, I wonder, like you said, it's already less now. If we push it a little more, I don't know how, but have the kids do more tech visits or something?
Yeah, so
Family-
something also changed in the new policy, is combined with this change in the admissions for the regional hotel, really to some of us, was the state also pushing all the conference students like ours to do much more advertising awareness around the regional voc techs and our own voc tech. Okay, now we've done quite a bit of that already, especially our own voc tech. But we now have a policy in place, which is what we voted for, but we're obligated to do a few things on getting the word out about and facilitating business ethics tech. And also to our schools. We're already doing that. The other big piece that helps, which is why your daughter's involved in medical assisting this year, right? I think you said that, is our exploratory programs. Many, like more than half of our ninth graders are rotating through all the programs.
Yeah.
There's no better outcome than that, very
Yeah.
honest. Yeah, it really isn't. So we're already getting that, but we've grown that, we've grown some more.
Could you do something for that, like that for the 8th graders? Because
Yeah,
we've already
no, that's what I mean.
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sorry. That's what we're doing for 8th graders. We're obligated to do it, play a little better with Essex Tech on that advertising and sort of stuff.
They come here and visit.
They do come and visit.
Yeah, they do come visit. They've got a great marketing department, got a great communication department, put out wonderful
Two
brochures.
different things, also, we're talking about here
Yeah.
and
Here versus there.
That's-
Yeah, that's what I'm-
They have a lot
Very
of money.
jealous.
Yeah, they do have a lot more, I know.
Yeah, no. So the state has also expect us to requiring us to do more of that outreach about Essex Tech, but also about our own.
Mhm.
And that's connected to, there is a big push, as there should be across the state, to grow these programs.
Mhm.
We need to encourage them.
Yeah, encourage that, yeah.
The one thing I like about what they start with, I don't know how it ends up less, is the proportionality of the history of how communities have participated.
Yeah.
I mean, that, as you say, that's predictability. The question mark is what happens in round two. It's great book.
So really just again, make sure you're aware of it, something's happening that clearly will affect us, nothing more than that at this point. We'll let you know what happens, and I really, it's very messy. Yeah.
And add the fact that it's half a state school for the agricultural piece and what that entails, because they can't put boundaries and limitations on communities that attend.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother issue too. It's a lot. So I feel for the school committee having to go through this difficult decision and the communities that it's impacted, because it honestly comes down to money, and that's pretty sad that we can't afford to educate our kids the way they want to be educated.
That's item
That's it.
8 on the agenda.
Okay, next item of business is the rest of the action, and we have 2 grants to accept. I move that we accept the Gloucester Education Foundation Elementary and Middle School Bands School Year 25-26 grant in the amount of $30,000, and the Gloucester Education Foundation Auto Tech School Year 25-26 support grant in the amount of $25,000. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have executive session.
I have a question, under discussion.
Under discussion, sure.
To Laura, I was reading through the minutes and I saw at your last meeting that you
Programs.
that you intended to have a conversation about the vocational program and it got tabled.
Correct.
So what is this timeline for that? And are you able to get the information you need, or do you need help?
We haven't gotten the information yet.
I can give you an update.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Ben Wassick and Bud Maciel and I met just before the December break,
Okay.
and we're all, doing different pieces of gathering more information.
Yeah.
I think part of that is, what's the mechanism of charging or collecting dollars, but also, there's quite a bit to work out on, honestly. So I just recently emailed Bud and Brandon Wassick. So Brandon Wassick is our voc tech director. Bud Maciel is one of our auto teachers. Jack Porter was happy. Jack Porter was out that day,
Okay.
but he's involved too. I think he's out here. So developing that, working on that. We need a program subcommittee, which I think will be in place after next.
Membership.
Okay.
Next time's meeting, but we're working to get there where we have a real good plan. I will say this, there's some complications on, how to charge and how to collect.
Right,
And we've got to sort of work through it. So part of the work is finding out how other voc techs do it.
right. So I was gonna suggest Essex Tech, their policies are online, free, we're able to access them.
Yeah.
I believe they had a policy, they have a policy on that.
Yeah.
Might be helpful
Yeah,
to see
great.
what they have for a template to start your own, or reach out to Whittier or someone else that could be doing the same thing.
And Kelly already did, you already tried to come up with date for the next
Yeah, yeah,
meeting to
okay.
discuss, but you know, I'm waiting, to find out who's on the.
I just want to make sure it wasn't tabled,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
tabled, or
No,
just
no, no.
tabled. You want.
No,
And
it's,
listen, that's great. We'll look at those, okay? And also another level is procedure.
Right, exactly,
Yeah, so it's,
might even need a
yeah,
revolving
we'll
account or
get there.
something.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah,
Right,
definitely.
yeah.
We'll get there. But it's gonna take a little bit of work to sort through the pieces. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looks like he's thinking.
So do we need an executive session? What I'm trying to get at.
Ask me, see.
I think about it a very short one.
Sure.
So we put these on, just sort of to explain what I'm talking about, so executive session is often we'll put these on because we think it's developing. But I think we do a quick one.
Okay, so I move that we enter executive session pursuant to executive session purpose 3 of Mass General Law 30A, section 21A, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with Gloucester AFSCME Clerical Unit A and the Gloucester AFSCME Clerical Unit C. Okay, roll call vote, please, Stephanie.
Kevin Lancy. Yes. Mr. Melvin.
Yes.
Ms. Weason. Yes. Ms. Price.
Yes.
Ms. Daigle.
Yes.
Ms. Liakos.
Yes.
Mayor Lott.
Yes.
Thank you for anyone who's, we will only come out for the purposes to adjourn, so anybody that's with us now, we won't miss anything, we're going to be back and include what